Let's see here. Kobe. Alright, we are live. Welcome to Fanfic Friday on Saturday. Because this week I had a little bit of illness and fell behind, so postponed it to today, but that's alright. We're on chapter 3 of a horrible love story. Quote, love story. I wrote in middle school. Let's see here. Where did I put the cover image? You know, one day I really should organize my files. Would probably help if I did that. Oh, here it is. Nice. Hello, Jeff, Xavier, Cygnus. Welcome. Give it a minute or two and see who hops in. Just eating my snack. I spent all morning cooking, so now I have delicious food. Like blueberry bread. Which is just blueberry muffins when you're too lazy to put them in a muffin tin. Alright. Everything should be set up well. Hello, Odd Molly. Hello, Elfin. I'm ready to suffer. I don't know if I'm ready to suffer. Am I allowed to back out? Am I allowed to decide not to suffer? So sad. This one gets, goofy. It gets goofy. I mean, this whole thing is gonna be goofy, I'm sure. I took a glance at the chapter we're gonna read next week, and I about died. This one's pretty bad, too, though. My saving grace is they aren't as long as things that I would read later. Hello, Nacho. Welcome. Almost done with my bread. And then we'll get started. Unfortunately. Let's put this here. Is this a fanfic with me and Seph? Thank God, no it's not. Not like the Vincent story was. It is a original character who, you know, isn't that unique a character. It's just a stand-in, I guess. Her name's Josie, I think. She's... yeah, she's basically me, but with more character. I'm not literally writing about myself the way I was in the Vincent story. Was this the first chapter? No, this is the third one. Not a lot's happened yet. This is set in the real world. The main character... yes, the main character is a former Marine who is 19 years old. Yes, I forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me that she is a former Marine who, one day was mugged and almost died, and then an angel descended to her and saved her, and said, in return, here, you can take care of this angel for me. And that angel was Sephiroth. So now Sephiroth lives with her, and other orphans are gonna show up and need taken care of. That's why the story's called The Orphanage. And as we discussed last week, the genre I put for this story on fanfic.net was romance/spiritual. There's just so much going on. Yes, so much. Okay. So chapter 3, like all of them, starts with a fucking quote. If I never knew you, if I never felt this love, which is from Pocahontas. I've never even watched that movie, I don't think. I think I just googled romance songs, probably. Hey, Lobsoul. Hi, Clark. I don't know if I said hello yet. Listening to these feels like taking an ice bath. It hurts, and yet I feel spiritually refreshed. Well, I'm glad to be of service. Oh my god. It didn't take long for fate to prove Sephiroth correct. The first orphan was a kitten. So okay, the kitten probably doesn't really count, but I've always wanted a pet. Never had one, always wanted one. He was a white and black fluffy kitty with one black eye and one black paw. What? Okay, I guess the fur? And I guess I'm saying that one paw was black and the fur around the eye was black. Okay. Sephiroth, annoyed, told me to name it the Annoying Furball. Can you imagine Sephiroth saying that? You should name this cat Annoying Furball. How old was I when I wrote this? Not 16, 15 probably. I think he was being sarcastic. It was the first time he'd talked to me since he'd woken up. But because of that, the little guy was dubbed Annoying Furball. Furball fell right into the routine at home. He would curl up in my lap whenever I lied down to write. I lied down to write? Right. Lay down to write. When Sephiroth would lie down on the sofa, Furball would wait until he was deep in slumber to approach and curl up next to him. He was a smart kitty. I found myself watching Sephiroth more, and he was watching me too. Whenever my eyes met his, my heart became light. I was warning myself not to, but I think I was falling for him. All you've done is look at each other, and you've lived together for a week. Tuesday night, I got a call. It was my brother Jamie, all comfy and cozy in his city home. I didn't tell Jamie about my new guest. A part of me wanted to keep him as my little secret. So how's city life? What is this big difference between... Anyway. My brother was an architect. He was working on all sorts of projects. I zoned out of his speech about them, his unending successes. Well, what about you? Well, my writing sucks. I almost died, and I'm living off military payments, and this strange, beautiful angel is glaring at me right now. Anything else? Everything's fine, I said. 10 minutes later, the call was finally finished. Sighing dryly, I slammed the phone down and huffed, crossing my arms and falling onto the couch. What year is this? She has a home phone? Oh, man. Hey, Levi. Hey, Alexis. Who was that? Sephiroth muttered vehemently, glowering at me. Just my idiot of a brother. Apparently I don't like talking to, brother. Without a sound, Sephiroth left the room. I could have sworn that as soon as the word brother escaped my lips, his eyes softened, and the green envy left them, if only a little bit. Known each other for a week. You've done nothing but stare at each other, and he's envious you're talking to a stranger on the phone. I was so good at writing romance! Ugh, I know what's romantic so well. The second orphan came 3 days later. There was an awe-inspiring sunrise that morning. As God's hand flew across the bleak sky, pink dotted its vacant surface, and a rolling, thundering red and orange came after. Rolling, thundering, red and... I was trying very hard to be poetic, clearly. Clouds were soft and small, giving the sky an innocent touch over the blood-like screen. I had been on the roof. On the roof? I was on the roof, sipping coffee in my robe and letting the warm, soft morning air roll over me when the sound of an anguished groan floated to my ears. So the second orphan arrived, a teenage boy barely older than I was when my mother died. He looked like an angel too, crystalline and sparkling, a glorious teenage angel. Silver hair similar to Sephiroth's curled under his chin. His build was small. I could carry him without any trouble into the house and up to the bedroom. Sephiroth was healthy enough to sleep on the sofa, I thought. Sephiroth, I called out. Of course, no answer. I took the boy into my room. As I did, I passed my office, where Sephiroth sat reading. We've got another orphan, Furball. I smiled to my cat as it left Sephiroth's lap and ran up beside me. Gently, I set the boy down on the bed. He was in rather good condition, but exhausted. Nothing a few days of rest and some food couldn't fix. Actually, with him being an angel, I was sure he'd heal fast. I was beginning to wonder how these poor angels had become so wounded and hurt. Why would anyone want to hurt them? As I bandaged the boy, I wondered about Sephiroth. His eyes were burned into my memory. Green, bright green, neon like the lights of the city, but also the bright green like the waters of a marsh. Cat-like, stalking his prey with graceful ease. He had the lonely eyes of a lone wolf, forever wandering without a pack, strong, standing tall and on his own, the eyes of a warrior. In half an hour, I'd bandaged the boy. Sephiroth stepped into the room wearing black slippers, pants, and a baggy black tee that read "Got Beer" and had been my dad's once. Furball was under his arm. The juxtaposition of what I just wrote, and then I just got finished waxing poetical about his warrior demeanor, and he walks in the room with a "Got Beer" t-shirt. If I didn't know I had not consciously done that on purpose, this would be comedy gold. This would be the greatest thing I ever wrote. But I clearly just wasn't thinking at all about anything. Like, why would I put those two paragraphs next to each other? Why? Why? God, why? His name is Kadaj, Sephiroth muttered, before taking Furball and leaving. So all he did was walk in the room and say, "That dude's Kadaj," and he walked away! Looking down, I noticed Kadaj stirring. This household was becoming very strange. To my relief, Kadaj was a bit more talkative than Sephiroth, and his eyes, while strong, were innocent, and instead of burning into my soul with fiery strength, they avoided all obstacles with water-like wisdom. They avoided all obstacles like water-like wisdom? Obstacles? What obstacles is he avoiding? What? Instead of burning into my soul with fiery strength, they avoided all obstacles with water. I guess they avoided looking at people, so he was just like... I don't know. I loved his eyes. I learned from Kadaj that he and Sephiroth were brothers. Really? Kadaj nodded. "We are two of many," he began. "My siblings Yazoo and Loz will be here soon." I smiled at the thought of more friends. Maybe the lone wolf would become part of a pack soon. Well, he would if I could help it. At first, the youth hadn't totally trusted me. When he awoke, he seemed shocked I cared for his health. After 20 minutes, Kadaj relaxed immensely. 20 specifics, man! It's been 20 minutes, you can relax now. After 20 minutes, Kadaj relaxed immensely. I wish Sephiroth would do that. Later in the day, I assisted Kadaj in walking down to the kitchen. Even though I knew Kadaj could probably kick my butt, I felt very comfortable around him, like an older sister would around their younger brother. I'd only known him for a little less than half a day, but I adored his personality. I felt so free being around his childish behavior. He said what was on his mind. God, you've known these people for such a short amount of time. Ugh. He said what was on his mind, whether it was to sob from stubbing his toe or curse from misplacing something. I'd never been that way. As we walked down the stairs, I looked to Kadaj. "How'd you get here?" I asked gently. Smiling, he looked at me. "I died, but when I woke up, there was white everywhere. This soft, sweet voice was leading me away from the darkness. She sounded like my mother." Kadaj's eyes were so light and sweet. I wanted to hug him to death. But if I did, he actually might die. "Hungry?" I asked, as Kadaj gently placed himself at the counter. He was silent for a moment. "The children of Genova don't truly need substance, but yes, I guess I am hungry." Kadaj covered his stomach sheepishly as it gurgled. Giggling, I looked around the kitchen. The pantry wasn't well stocked, and if more orphans were coming, I'd have to stock up. Promising myself I'd go shopping tomorrow, I began making macaroni. "So who's Genova?" Remembering his words, I was curious. Kadaj watched me with curious eyes. Just both staring at each other so curiously. He seemed so innocent, yet so determined and strong. A contradiction of weakness and strength that as a writer, or simply as a human being, fascinated me. Genova is my mother, our mother. She created us, and we must help her. We must make her happy. Kadaj's childish anger was showing, his tendency to burst. His tendency to burst. Not burst out in anger, not burst out in song. He just has a tendency to burst. He seemed so downhearted. Clutching the water glass in his hand tight, he grimaced. I failed her. Gasping, I noticed the glass in Kadaj's hands was cracking, about to shatter. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm not with her. Shivering, the boy's last words were whispers. Mother doesn't want me anymore. My eyes grew wide with shock and anger. A mother no longer wanting her child. What kind of mother is that? I breathed. I breathed, absolutely shaken. The shriek of glass shards shattering hit my ears as Kadaj screamed and lost control, shattering the glass in his hands. He leapt at me, palms bleeding. The glass cut into my throat as he took an iron grip on delicate skin. His eyes were blazing with anger and dulled with pain. I desperately wanted to help him, but I also wanted to breathe. Don't talk about mother that way, he sobbed, his voice cracking and shaking. Almost as soon as he'd taken hold of me, cutting my skin with the glass shards in his own hands, Kadaj was violently shoved off me, and a hand was now at his throat. Gasping for breath, I tried to take the glass from my throat, but ended up ripping the skin instead. Screaming, I clutched my shoulder. So much has happened! It's been like an hour since Kadaj showed up! A strong hand took hold of my shoulder and firmly pulled me towards a body, and with a grunt I hit Sephiroth's side. I was gasping for breath, and in shock my hands were resting on Sephiroth's chest. It was an excruciatingly confusing, yet awesomely amazing feeling! It was an excruciatingly confusing, yet awesomely amazing feeling. Oh no! No! Fanfic Friday is cancelled! Forever! No! 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 I'm not reading this! No! 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 Oh god! It was an excruciatingly confusing, yet awesomely amazing feeling. To bleed from such a delicate area in such a painful way, glass and the blood of an angel soaking my neck, yet also holding on to such a handsome man as my heart hammered in pain and wonderful bliss. Ah! Why? No! No! Why did I write that? What even does that mean? What? What? She has glass in her throat, but she's happy? She's what? What? No! 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 What? She's gone, Kadaj, Sephiroth spat. Shut up! Sephiroth shoved Kadaj into the wall and he whimpered, sobbing and shivering. My heart thumped out of my chest as thousands of feelings rushed over me like a tsunami. Don't hurt him, I hacked. It sounded like I'd said, don't hurt him. Sephiroth's eyes were flashing and powerful. She's gone, Kadaj. We were nothing to her. The poor teen was hyperventilating, sweating and cursing, dividing between falling to the floor and crying and reaching for the blade at his waist. Kadaj's head fell in somber silence and Sephiroth's eyes burned into the top of his head. Gently I pressed my body against his, and my hands tightened their grip as, in agony, I tried to get his attention. Please, let him go. I began coughing blood. Sephiroth let Kadaj slide to the floor, turning to face me. He sighed and began taking the glass shards out of my neck. "I'm sorry, sister. I'm so sorry," Kadaj sobbed, clutching his temples. "Sister?" Once the shards were out, I was still bleeding. Whimpering helplessly, I stood, trying not to impede Sephiroth. I wanted him to care. I wanted him to let his eyes show emotions. To my surprise, Sephiroth placed his... Brace yourselves, everyone! Brace yourselves. To my ultimate surprise, Sephiroth placed his hands on my shoulder and bent down. "Don't move." I gasped in shock when Sephiroth's lips met my wounds. So soft and smoothing, his full lips caressed the bleeding skin, taking my blood into his mouth. His tongue darted over the wound, lapping at my skin. I was shivering in pleasure and shock. But that was not the most shocking. His saliva was healing my wounds. He continued to kiss each one, and they met as his lips healed them. I'm crying. I'm crying. I did not remember writing any of this. Sephiroth left me standing there in shock, glass and blood covering my kitchen, and Kadaj curled up in a corner with tears pouring down his face as I fell to my knees. Thousands of different thoughts were flying through my mind. Millions of feelings fought one another for precedence in my mind. Oh, no! Blood was the color of my world? What does that mean? I'm gonna invent a time machine and go back and ask my 14-year-old self, what does that mean? And I felt glass oh God. Blood was the color of, oh Jesus, no. Blood was the color of my world, and I felt glass the decorations of my kitchen. Kadaj's sobs were my music. My drumming heart added to the beat, and my breathing made a rhythm. I heard a flap of wings. The light in the room grew stronger, and warmth from an unseen body warmed us as I crawled to Kadaj. We sobbed together, shaken and confused, hurt and wounded, lost and orphaned. I knew Zack had come back. At that moment, as my mind reeled, one thought came to the surface as my eyes closed and I rested against Kadaj. I wondered who was holding Sephiroth as he cried. So that was a chapter. That was something. We don't need to keep going. I think we've all experienced enough, right? Oh my god. 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 My angsty little goth self freaking stabbing the character with glass in the neck so that Sephiroth could lick the blood off her. Jesus Christ, child. Lord in heaven above. I think we're all shaken and confused. The characters in the story, the person reading the story, the people listening. What? Oh, God. Angel Zack flies by and like, what the fuck, you guys? I was gone for a day. I was gone for one day. Oh, my God. Ugh. Oh, God. Chapter 4. Chapter 4 also quotes a Coldplay song. The title is This the Place? Which isn't even... Oh, no. It's Is This the Place We Used to Love? Is This the Place I've Been Dreaming of? Which is from... No, it's a Kiane song. Somewhere Only We Know. That's what that's from. Oh, Jesus. Is this the catharsis the ancient Greeks wrote about? I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm feeling. Oh, God. When I woke up, I was in a fluffy bed, snuggling into the warmth of Kadaj's body. They've known each other for less than a day, remember? And he attacked her, strangled her, and stabbed her with glass, and they are now snuggling. My eyes blinked as I began to slowly awaken. The sunlight was warming my skin. Carefully, I slipped out of Kadaj's hold. As warm as it was, as inviting as it was time to wake up. It was going to be a long day. I made sure to prepare Kadaj food before leaving to shop. It might be hours before the boy awoke, so I made a sandwich. I sort of hoped I'd return before he woke, because otherwise he and Sephiroth might kill each other. It occurred to me Sephiroth might be awake, so before leaving, I sought him out. I looked for Sephiroth to tell him where I was going, but he was nowhere in the house. I did find Furball, but the kitty was no help in finding the man. Sephiroth, I murmured. No. I murmured. He was nowhere to be found, so I stepped outside. And there he was, training, punching the air and practicing moves, sweat running down his sculpted body. For a moment, I gawked. It was the same as a deer who had unknowingly stepped before the headlights of a semi-truck. My mind prayed Sephiroth wouldn't catch me in the act. He sure did. Turning, sweat beads on his forehead and flowing over his eyes, he blinked in seemingly slow motion, his eyes burning into me as always. Once again, my mind caught on fire, blazing with feelings and memories I'd never had. Visions and thoughts crashed through my mind in a collision course. Was I burning? Would I die of bliss? Surely love was not this passionate, confusing flare of insanity that burst in my mind whenever Sephiroth and I came into contact. It's not. That's not love. That's teenage horniness. Sephiroth smirked daringly, knowing I had all eyes on him. As he sauntered by, I collapsed to my knees, moaning? What? Sephiroth laughed as the screen door shut behind him. Oh my god. Okay, so there's a paragraph break and she's now in town. I didn't actually edit this because I googled stock photos of bullying and this image came up and I was too delighted and curious and afraid of what this image is supposed to be. So this is just the image for this part of the story. Well, if it ain't Miss Stick-Up-Her-Ass Novelist. I cursed as I strode through the town streets. My name is Samantha, I seethed. The man talking to me was Hunter, the ultimate hick and ugly sore, a bug I've always wanted to squash. And this is coming from a woman who tries to save the creepy crawlers in her home and put them out of harm's way. Hunter gave me a look with those I'm better than you eyes. I realized Sephiroth's eyes were sort of the same, but his were much more complex and much more beautiful. Hunter was just stupid. There's been rumors round town a strange man's in your house. Hunter snickered, still following me, and I rolled my eyes. There's a rather strange man standing next to me now. I wish he would go away. Her name is Samantha. Her name is Samantha, but her nickname is Josie. Yeah, I don't get it either. He followed me around the store, but I could ignore him. I needed milk, bread, juice. So what? None of us country folk good enough? You need a city boy? Hunter tried to stand in my way, but I avoided him. Of course you're not good enough for me, swine. Grabbing some cans of soup, I entered the next aisle. Not gonna defend your honor? Hunter spat. Irritated, I spun to meet him. Piss off! As I strode angrily away from the shocked man, he looked like he'd been slapped. A smirk came to my face. Who knew the quiet girl could ever stand up for herself? Certainly not me. I took my groceries to checkout, and Hunter did not follow me. As I headed downtown, walking in happiness, I decided to check out the flower store on the corner of Parsons. The place that I'd been attacked at was nearby. Sighing, I entered the flower store. My house was very plain and drab with no color. With a chuckle, I realized my life had been that way before Sephiroth. My life was no longer colorless and lifeless. Flowers would fix the house in the same way. I stepped into the flower shop and was met with a wonderful aroma. Smiling, I dove into the flowery jungle and began searching. Easily, I found flowers I liked. White and pink roses and daffodils. I bought some for the kitchen and some for the some from the office. Next, I looked for flowers for Kadaj. He was childish and cute in his own way, so I bought him some baby's breath. The third bouquet was a challenge. What to get Sephiroth? I approached the cashier with my question. Hello. I have a very strange, dark friend. What should I get him? We created a dark, mysterious bouquet, which satisfied me, and I paid for everything, making to leave. My heart leapt out of my chest. I started to shake and sweat, freaking out of my mind. There he was, the man who had stabbed me and left me for dead. He stood across the street with his cruel eyes on me. I ran, faster than I ever thought I could, but it wasn't fast enough. He roughly seized my shoulder and shoved me into a dark alley. Crying out, I stood to run, but he shoved me back down and glowering. I have no fucking clue how you survived, but you won't this time. The flower petals were floating everywhere. The bouquets had been roughly pushed aside, sitting in the mud and water. I sobbed. Don't make a sound. No one's going to save you. My mind throbbed with an insane panic, an anguished pain, once again on fire with agony and rage. I felt this pounding in my mind, like a heartbeat, going fast out of fear. It wasn't mine, but it seemed to fit with my heart. It was so strong. The mugger was violently seized and tossed against the brick wall, and I heard a crack as he slumped to the floor. This woman is mine! Touch her again and I will kill you. Romantic. It was Sephiroth. His dark, husky voice was a blessing. Shocked, hyperventilating, I leaned into the safety of his body. The would-be murderer put his dangerous eyes on me. My heart thumped hard and loud, and I was so afraid the entire world could hear my weakness. The ironic thing was, the only person who could was Sephiroth, who had me pulled to his chest. He was the only person I would ever want to know my weakness. Grimacing, the mugger broke eye contact, and I was so surprised it hadn't been me to break away. Promptly, I began crying into Sephiroth's chest as the man stumbled away, disappearing into the night. I trembled, my soul shaken, my heart weakened, and I realized something. I had not felt this way during his first attack against me. I had been strangely detached from the incident, and it was simple why. Back then, I had had no reason to live. My colorless, tasteless life. But now I had so much to be thankful for. I had a cat, and Kadaj, and Sephiroth. Gently pushing away from Sephiroth, I bent to the floor, scooping the ruined bouquet into my hand, and I held it out to him. I bought you some flowers, I whimpered, but I couldn't finish, and I collapsed into his chest. My trembling hand was covered by his, and I felt his chin fall on top of my head. A breeze sped through the air where Sephiroth's mighty black wing was released. My eyes first fell upon it. Holding tightly to me, he took to the skies. Sighing softly into his chest, I fell asleep in the arms of a beautiful, one-winged angel as black feathers and dead flower petals wafted through the sky. I awoke to see two faces leaning over me. She's awake! Kadaj, she's awake! My first response was to jump out of my skin. There were two more silver-haired orphans in my house already. One looked sleek and fine, sort of feminine, yet stealthy and sneaky. His eyes twinkled with mystery and darkness. The other was muscular, with eyes full of strength and power, yet also kindness and happiness. He was like Kadaj in this effect, innocent yet strong. Groaning, I sat up as Kadaj ran into the room with a big grin on his face. Sister! I smiled as he stood beside the bed, fighting the urge to hug me. I suppose he figured I was sore. Well, are you going to introduce us, Kadaj? The long-haired one smirked. These are my siblings, Kadaj stood. Yazoo and Loz. Brothers, this is Samantha, I answered for him. Loz, the muscular one, grinned and waved, and Yazoo nodded politely. Both seemed sort of taken with me, beaming brightly. So can we all call you sister? Loz asked, embarrassed. My heart swelled with happiness. Of course! You're strangers I've known for 2 minutes. That's fine. Lois grinned sheepishly, almost as childish as Kadaj. The atmosphere changed as they left, smiling and waving. Kadaj promised to make me lunch, as Sephiroth quietly sauntered in. I had a newfound respect for him, as frightening as he was, because he had saved me. That was 3 times my life had been saved by an angel. Twice by Sack, and now by Sephiroth. Flushing, I began to wonder what Sephiroth had meant by what he said to the mugger. I had this feeling in the back of my mind, soothing and gentle. My eyes met his. Were we connected somehow? Was that why he made me feel strange? What was it he had meant? Shyly, I cleared my throat. Thank you for saving me, I murmured, daring to meet his eyes. It was necessary. I won't let anyone touch who is mine. My train of thought crashed. What? Chuckling, I saw Sephiroth smirk when he looked back at me. I was confused as ever, but I knew I wouldn't get any answers if he shut his mouth. Where are you from? I asked. He looked back at me, and at first I didn't think he'd answer. A place called Gaia. Nodding, I continued asking whatever was on my mind. Are you 4 the only brothers in your family? I asked. This time, Sephiroth gave me an odd look. There are 2 others. The one you call Zack, he is my brother. Sephiroth seemed to fume, and also one named Cloud Strife. My heart skipped a beat. I knew that name. Dun, dun, dun. Done. I'm done. I'm so done. That's the end of Fanfic Friday for today. Maybe for every day. Maybe. God, that was so much. And there's more coming. There's 30 chapters of this, y'all. 30 chapters of the highest romance. The epitome of true love. Oh man, there's so much happening. So much. Thank you all for joining me. This was a horrifying and harrowing experience, but I think we've all grown stronger for surviving it. Next week, Fanfic Friday will be back at its normal time. You know, hell or high water. If you like what I do here, I don't know why, because horrible things like this happen, but you can always support the channel and get cool bonus content. Today, members and I all watched Silent Hill Symbolism together and chatted, and that was quite fun. The recording got screwed up, so I can't post it, but we'll do it again sometime. Monday, we'll be back with more reading of gay fiction and playing of Fatal Frame and the general schedule. So I will see y'all then, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Bye.